Hi, my name is Bill Ziegler. I'm Senior Vice President of Animal Programs here at the Chicago Zoological Society's Brookfield Zoo. Today I'm going to talk to you about a couple things, tigers in general, and then also I want to talk to you about a series that's been on television lately called The Tiger King and what that means in terms of zoological institutions. So behind me here is Whirl. Whirl is a Amur Tiger, also known as the Siberian tiger. She has been at the zoo since, which was in 2007. So actually this May she'll be 13 years old. Of the tiger world, which historically used to range throughout Asia, Southeast Asia, a lot of the islands like Borneo, Java, Sumatra, Malaysia, has been actually reduced in range to about 6% of the original habitat that they used to live in. Unfortunately, and that's due to agricultural expansion, hunting, loggings of forest, which have affected prey base, as well as the human-tiger conflict issue, and also the desire to collect tigers for a number of purposes. One of them being the idea that some of the tiger parts have medicinal capabilities in traditional Asian medicine, which right now there's no scientific proof of that. Unfortunately, tigers in the wild at the turn of the century numbered about 100,000, but today their maximum number is around 4,000. There's two recognized subspecies of tigers, although depending upon who you talk to, there's a lot of taxonomists who are people who look at the differences between animals and trying to decide what's a species or a subspecies. Some of them say there's up to 9 different subspecies of tigers, but our primary scientific body, the International Union for the Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources, and a number of other scientists back in 2016 got together and took a look at all the tiger populations, morphometrics for these tigers, and came down to the fact that there are basically only 2 subspecies. The Amur tiger, or the Siberian tiger, belongs to one, which is known as Panthera tigris. This is what's called the mainland tiger, and they lived in India, Burma, China, western or eastern parts of Russia, Malaysia, Thailand. And the second subspecies are from the Sunda Islands, which make up Java, Sumatra, Borneo, a few of the smaller islands, including Bali, where tigers used to be. The Sunda Island tigers are relatively small. They average about 350 pounds in weight altogether, whereas the mainland tigers are much, much bigger. In fact, the mainland tigers, you'll find that males can get up to about 9 feet in total length, and they can weigh as much as 650, close to 700 pounds. Now, there is what you call sexual dimorphism in this species, which means the females are quite small compared to a big male. A female mainland tiger will get about 7 feet in length and may weigh 350 pounds at the most. So you'll be able to see a difference. This Whirl is a female, by the way. The average length for time for tigers to live under professional care has been a record-setting 26 years, but the average life expectancy under professional care is actually in their early 20s, late teens. And as I said, Whirl's going to be turning 13 in May of this year. Now, the show that I talked to you about regarding tigers and the Tiger Kings portrayed a number of individuals who had large collections of tigers, and we've received a lot of questions about that and how we may participate in those type of programs. And first I'd have to say that those institutions that were portrayed in Tiger King are not a member of our nationally accredited zoological institutions. We belong to an organization called the American Zoo and Aquarium Association. In order to be a member, you have to be accredited, which means you have to meet incredibly high standards. And so those institutions that were part of that have not been accredited. And we actually tend to call them either collections or roadside menageries. Then I've been asked too is how many tigers are there out there in the United States. Altogether there's probably about 10,000 tigers, but in accredited zoos there's only about 384, 385 tigers altogether. And they make up the Sumatran tiger, which is one of the Sunda Island subspecies, the Bengal tiger. There are a few Malaysian tigers available, and then the Amur tiger, which is what Whirl is. Our tigers are bred specifically based upon genetics and demographics, and so accredited institutions do not participate with the organizations like you saw on Tiger King. Their breeding occurs without a lot of genetic control to them. In fact, sometimes they actually try to breed for color instead of basic genetic diversity in the population. So that can be a real issue. And we don't really participate with those programs. We don't allow them to come into zoos because we do not know their genetic makeup. Only the tigers where we can verify their lineage are part of our breeding program. So you can see there's a lot of differences. Most zoos in their programs are very careful about the nutrition and their health care. Have veterinarians on staff and nutritionists on staff to work up their diets. And in the roadside zoos, sometimes they're lucky if they have a part-time vet, but hardly any of them actually have a full-time nutritionist. So the quality of the care and the longevity of the animals is critical for us and accredited institutions. And we just wanted to make sure that you realize that when they say zoo on that show, it's not representative of the type of zoo that Brookfield Zoo is or the National Zoo Association that we belong to. Now when we talk about prey, tigers in the wild, their main prey are ungulates, which are hoofed animals, large hoofed animals including boars, sandbar deer, sika deer. They like those big animals that average about 150 to 250 pounds. They can take bigger prey such as wild cattle, but that's not often. And they have a unique way of capturing their prey. They'll actually, when they attack it, they go for the throat. They want to hang on to it and they strangulate the animal until it finally succumbs. Also, tigers in the wild are breeding year-round. They don't have a particular breeding cycle. The average litter takes about 103 to 105 days to give birth for a female, and the size ranges anywhere between 2 to 4 cubs of the average. Young tigers stay with their mom until they're about 2.5 years of age. Males that may be more dominant might leave a little bit sooner, and it's during this time that you see the highest rate of deaths that occur with young males as they move out and try and establish their own territories. Tigers in the wild have a range of about 400 square miles. Females are a little bit smaller than that. So in order for a young male to establish himself, obviously he has to go against a larger, more mature male, and unfortunately some of those encounters are not satisfying for the young tiger. They can either get terribly injured, or as I said, a lot of times they will succumb to their injuries. So that's a story of tigers right now. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of them for you.
Can you tell us a little bit about what happened to Whirl's tail?
Whirl's tail, yeah, Whirl doesn't have a long tail. In fact, tails on tigers average anywhere from 24 to 36 inches in length. Whirl lost her tail when she was a kitten. Unfortunately, her tail got caught under a door where it was able to be reached by her dad. And in the process, or the injury after that, we ended up having to remove her tail.
What's she eating right now?
Well, she's got a treat. Throughout the day, we provide enrichment for all of our animals here at the zoo. We have an extensive enrichment program to make sure the welfare is great. And she's actually licking a frozen bowl that has chunks of meat and other products in there. So she can taste that, and she likes the coolness of it too. These things are placed throughout the exhibit, as I said, prior to Whirl coming out. Part of the reason is to help her engage with the environment so her activity level stays up.
Are keepers able to go into the exhibit or be face to face with the tiger?
No, in fact, all of our large cats, large carnivores, we manage them under what we call protective care, which means we are never exposed to them or go out onto a paddock with them. These are very dangerous animals, and despite having been bred in a zoological setting, they are still a wild animal and quite dangerous and unpredictable. So it is never a wise thing to expose yourself to a large carnivore.
What does she normally eat here at the zoo?
She has a diet that is created by a couple of companies. It's called a feline diet. That's a mixture of beef and horse meat, and then we're adding to that is added vitamins and minerals and micronutrients. She also gets bones that we provide them, and occasionally we provide whole carcasses for them of small mammals. That's never done in front of the public. It's usually done when the zoo is closed. But we want to provide that variety. That's another thing when we talked about Tiger King. You'll notice that a lot of the foods that some of these institutions that are not accredited feed are fairly simple, like chicken. You know, a cat can't survive just on chicken alone. It's not, it hasn't all the nutrients that it requires. And so many times you get cats that are underdeveloped or undernourished.
How many tigers are at Brookfield Zoo?
We only have one tiger right now. That's the thing about tigers. Unlike lions, which I talked to you prior a few weeks ago, that are a very social cat, tigers are not. They are loners. They only come together usually when breeding. However, there have been known cases where tigers will share a kill together, so they do tolerate each other. But most of the time, they spend that they're in their habitat. They spend it alone.
What is a tiger's tongue like?
Okay, if you've ever had a house cat lick you, you know how rough that tongue is. And that's precisely what a tiger's tongue is like as well. As he licks the food, the rasping of that tongue helps move materials and meat and all. It helps clean it off. So it's a very rough tongue.
Do the big cats stay outside overnight?
Well, most of the times we'll provide access. However, we watch the weather a lot, and if there's inclement weather or a chance of storms or something like that, the cats are brought in at night.
How many stripes does a tiger have?
That's a good question. The thing unique about the tigers is that every cat has its own pattern of stripes, and that's one way you can tell them apart. In many cases, they'll take pictures of the shoulder area to look at the striping there. But I would say on the average, an adult tiger probably has about 80 to 95 stripes. It can vary. Some of the tigers have very thin stripes, some have very broad stripes, so it changes, just like the pattern does.
What are the white spots on Whirl's ears?
Oh, okay. Well, there's been a lot of talk about that in the past. You notice those white spots. In some cases, people feel that's a form of potential communication between tigers. Tigers have a lot of facial expressions, and one of them, of course, is if a tiger is not very happy to have you around, they'll lay those ears back, and it's difficult to see those white patches. So we think tigers can, if they see those white patches, it's a form of communication that says, hey, I'm a little receptive to you. If you want to come in or come close, go ahead. Whereas if they aren't very happy, as I said, they'll lay those ears down, and it's very difficult to see. So it changes their overall expression in their face and the shape of their head.
Will we ever get white tigers?
No, we won't. White tigers have occurred in the wild naturally. Unfortunately, though, in order to maintain that color and keep reproducing white tigers, requires what we call inbreeding, where cats that are related that have that recessive gene have to be bred back together in order to get that white color. And many times you'll find that these white tigers with the black stripes and blue eyes are actually cross-eyed, They have other unusual characteristics. But we do not believe in inbreeding. Our goal in developing a sustaining population for tigers or all carnivores is to create as much genetic diversity in the population that we can. And so inbreeding is something we don't do.
How good is their hearing and their sight?
Their hearing is quite good. Their sight is good. If there isn't a lot of human presence in their range, these tigers actually tend to be diurnal. In other words, they hunt during the day, but when there's a lot of human activity, they'll hunt at night, and that's when their eyesight and hearing comes into play. Because they do have such keen eyesight and hearing, they can track their prey down from visual signs as well as hearing, and also from scent too.
Can they roar like lions do?
I'm sorry?
Can they roar like lions?
Well, they can growl. They also do a chuff sound, which is a form of recognition and welcoming that kind of goes, I don't know if you can hear that. That's called a chuff. And but they don't have the roar like the big lion does, where the male will go out and really you can hear that because of its low vibrations. You can hear it over a long distance. These cats aren't like the lions, prefer forest habitat, and so sound doesn't carry that far in a forest. There's a lot of obstacles there that can break up that sound. So they've not really gained a loud roar, but they can make a noise, yes.
Are the stripes in their fur or in their skin?
The stripe is actually in their fur, and you can shave a cat down, and as long as there's stubble there, you'll see that pattern. But it's primarily the fur. It's not like a zebra or other ungulates that have different pigmentation in the skin.
How long do tigers sleep?
How long do they sleep? Well, unlike the lion that can be resting for up to 18 to 20 hours a day, tigers take what we call cat naps. And so they don't sleep for long periods of time, but they will take numerous resting periods throughout a 24-hour period. So if they sleep 2 to 3 hours at a time, that's about normal for a big tiger.
And for the people who are just joining us, can you remind us that we don't get our animals from Joe Exotic?
Oh. No, we acquire our animals through other zoological institutions that are accredited by our National Zoo Association. It's called the AZA, the American Zoo and Aquarium, our Association of Zoos and Aquariums. We only take animals where we know their lineage, their genetic makeup, and so animals that are in private hands where breeding goes on without what we call a stud book are not acceptable into accredited zoological institutions.
So last week we saw Hudson getting trained. Do the tigers also get trained in the same way?
Yes, they do. All of our large carnivores get trained for a number of reasons. One, it's good engagement with the staff. They get to know who the staff are. But also we want to make sure that we're capable of doing some preventative health care and observations that would not require us having to immobilize the cat. So training becomes a very effective way of getting that done. In fact, we're training a lot of animals to be able to draw blood from and to give vaccines without having to immobilize them.
Do they groom themselves?
Well, that rasping tongue is a good brush, you could call it, and they will groom themselves. It's a way a cat helps to clean their fur off. If you have a house cat, you see them constantly licking themselves, and that's just cleaning themselves off.
How big are their paws?
Well, on a tiger, the front paws are usually the largest. On a big male tiger like an Amur or Bengal tiger, they can be 6 to 8 inches across. Their back feet are a little bit longer and narrower. So if you ever saw a footprint in the sand of a tiger, you would recognize it. It would be at least 6 to 8 inches across.
Are Amur tigers endangered?
Actually, all tigers are endangered. If you remember, I said that right now only about 6% of all tiger habitat is still available to tigers because of deforestation, crop cultivation, because of hunting. So all the big cats, including spotted leopards, snow leopards, and the tigers are endangered.
Do we have zoo veterinarians on staff every day?
Yes, we do. We have right now, since we're closed to the public, we keep at least 3 veterinarians here every day. They're on split shifts. But normally when we're open to the public, we have 5 on staff at all times.
How old do tigers live?
Tigers in the wild will average about 18 years, maybe a little bit longer. Under professional care, which means in accredited zoos and aquariums, the record's 26 years of age, but the average life expectancy is more like their early to mid-20s maybe.
How many teeth do tigers have, and are they very sharp?
Well, right now I couldn't tell you the exact number. I'd have to go look it up. But yes, they are very sharp. They're designed for a couple of reasons. The front canine teeth are designed to grasp and hold. If you remember, I told you how they capture their prey by grabbing their neck and hanging on and suffocating the animal. And then their back molars are not like ours. Our back teeth are very flat and they're for crushing things, whereas their back molars are very sharp for cutting meat.
What happened to the other tiger?
Which tiger?
'Cause we had 2 tigers.
Oh, well, we had a tiger in here for a while that wasn't happy to be with Whirl. They weren't actually doing much as far as reproduction, and so that tiger's no longer with us.
So will Whirl always live here at Brookfield Zoo?
Yes, more than likely Whirl will always be here. So we have considered this as sort of a retirement home for Whirl. Given her age and the fact that she's never reproduced, we don't think she would be productive. Later on in the latter part of the spring or early summer this year, we are bringing in another female. That way we can alternate them on the paddock. We would not put them together, but we would alternate them on and off the paddock so that there would always be a tiger on exhibit.
So I see that there is a pool behind Whirl.
Oh,
can they swim?
Yeah, that's one of the things about tigers. Tigers love to swim. As wide as 4 miles. They are very fond of water compared to other cats who, although they'll get wet, they don't really care to. Tigers love to get in the water. They'll soak themselves, especially in the tropical areas. They'll get into the water to help cool off. In fact, there was a tiger in a park in Burma that had been researched that actually spent most of its time hunting in the water. As prey would come down to the water to drink, the animal would spring out of the water after them.
Are there any fish in that water?
No, there's no fish in the water, no. That pool is cleaned periodically, and so we have to clean it for algae and other things, so it's drained down completely. The pool area is scrubbed, so we do not keep other live animals in the pool. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any other questions, please contact us at the Brookfield Zoo, and you can always go on our website if you would like to consider adopting Whirl or any of our big cats. You can go to czs.org and look for Share the Care. Also, I'd like to let you know that right now we have some special events going on. If you go to czs.org/Whirl, WHIRL, which is the name of Whirl behind me, there are exciting fundraising opportunities there to help support the zoo that are happening this week. So have a good time, stay safe, keep social distancing. We'll see you next time.